Hello, welcome to Shad Live. I have my new, it's pretty much new. It's only seeing really trainer miles right now because I had it in the trainer. Weather's going to be really nice this weekend, and so I'm going to do an upgrade to this. One thing I did do is I changed the bars. I went a little bit wider because the bars that came on the bike were just way too narrow for my shoulder width. Now I'm going to change out the crankset. You might be asking, it's a brand new bike, Shad. Why are you changing out the crankset already? Well, and I'll say QBP is probably the most famous for this, but all bike companies do it. QBP owns All-City. If you don't know what QBP stands for, it's Quality Bicycle Products. They're actually a Minnesota company, and I did work for them at one time. But this bike is pretty well spec'd, but they tend to skimp in the drivetrain, or at least the crankset area, and they also use FSA cranks all the time. I bought a Surly Cross Trek like way back in 2008 or 2009, and it had an FSA crank on it, whatever. And FSA stands for full speed ahead, right? They're just kind of like a budget Taiwan brand. I mean, they make decent stuff, but it just doesn't compare to Shimano and SRAM and stuff like that, or Race Face or whatever, right? So I'm going to swap out the crank, and I'm going to actually put the crank that should have come on this bike. I'm going to put a GRX 810 crank on it to match the GRX 810 rear derailleur. and it's got the GRX 600 levers, hydraulic brakes, which are really nice, even though they're the middle level. So yeah, and I'm going to tell you a few things about this crankset and why I don't like it once I get it removed from the bike, and then I'll compare it to the GRX crankset. Just right off the bat, here is the GRX crankset. Like, oh man, it's like a world of difference. You look at this thing, just looks wise, that's just, sorry, but that's like so much nicer, and this is a cool bike, so why not have the best of the best on there? Okay, here they are comparing them. The GRX one is just way nicer. This is also half a pound lighter, so all of this, it's got the same setup. But one thing I realized after I took this off is look at how skinny the spindle is on this FSA crank versus the Shimano crank. So that means that I'm not going to have a direct swap with the bottom bracket, and I didn't order a bottom bracket because I kind of assumed that this might have a a bigger spindle, but it doesn't, so I got to get a bottom bracket that will work with the Shimano GX crank. So I will do that, and this video will have to conclude once I go get that. But another thing that I want to look at is notice the crank arm interface with the chain rings versus Shimano's, like how much nicer that is. This like kind of blocky squared look, and like they just don't even look good. These just kind of look like crappy cranks. And then there's one more thing I want to call out that's pretty significant. Look here. Let's see if I can hold these in such a way you can see. I don't want to scratch up the Shimano one, but look at this. So these are both 170 cranks, and what FSA does, I bet, is they manufacture all their crank arms the same length, and then they just change where they drill the hole, which is pretty cheesy. So now I have all this extra crank arm at the end versus Shimano where it's rounded off with the crank arm. And yeah, that could be a ground clearance issue. Not necessarily on road, but like if you're on a gravel bike and you're in some rougher terrain or you go over some rocks, you could hit your crank arm on the rocks because it's going to stick way lower than this one. Like, this is terrible. They don't even like cut the crank or make the crank match the length. It's just, this is how they cut corners and save money. And then you can also tell this is grooved out here versus a nice hollow crank arm like Shimano uses. This is just one solid piece block of aluminum. Yeah, so these are way nicer, or the Shimanos are way nicer. Okay, this is exactly what I needed, so now I can finish the job. Yeah, it's the next day, but I had to get a Shimano specific bottom bracket for this, so I will remove that bottom bracket and put this one on, and then I can put the GRX cranks on. Cool. Okay, there you have it. Not only does it shift a lot better, which it does, it's not a huge surprise there. Shimano, you know, the way they do their teeth and all of that is probably much improved over what the FSA crank had. But I also noticed that the chainring is perfectly straight. Like, it doesn't move back and forth when I pedal the bike. The FSA crank, it moved, and what's kind of annoying about it when it moved is it makes it really hard to adjust your derailleur so the chain doesn't rub, because it's like moving the chain back and forth and it would rub a little bit. Now there is no rubbing. Super nice. So I just kind of shocks me that, I mean, it's fine if you're gonna offer something else on a bike to save money, but at least make sure it's good enough to not be just a piece of crap. I just look at the spindle and the fact that it wasn't straight and all of that is pretty annoying. Yeah, anyway, enough on that. Pretty stoked about this. I want to give you a little closer look at what it looks like from a different angle, because it looks pretty cool, and this bike looks way more legit with that crankset on it than it did the other one. GRX 810, GRX 810, and GRX front derailleur. I don't know what level it is. So now it's all GRX, and then it's got Shimano GRX hydraulic brakes. I think these are 600 levers and brakes, which are pretty nice. So there you have it. This bike is ready to go. I'm super stoked about this bike. I did sign up for the Meesville 56, which is a gravel event in April, I believe it is. And I also am going to sign up for the Filthy 50 again, and I might use this bike. I've been using my Salsa Fargo for the Filthy 50, but this bike might work again. It's going to depend on the conditions. If I feel like it's going to be wetter and softer, I'm probably going to run the Fargo with the bigger tires on it. But honestly, this will be more my primary all-around gravel and even road bike, because I don't own a road bike, but this is good enough to ride road with. I might switch out the tires to those Torino Zero tires, the same ones that are on my State 4130 all-road, because I really like those tires. They got the smooth center tread and then a little bit of traction on the sides, and I've even ridden those tires in gravel and they work really good. So I don't know, we'll see. But the nice thing about those Torino Zero tires is that riding on road, you have a smooth contact with the road versus this. You know, they're like little micro knobbies, but you know, I think having that smooth tread would be nicer. But plus, honestly, I don't really like the tan sidewall. I'm sorry. I know some people might like it. It's classic, whatever. It's not even like that well done. It's like curvy or kind of off here. So yeah, I'd like all black tires on here. Well, there you have it. Appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.